Welcome to Me and You Outside. Do you remember I just done a video maybe a week or two ago where my grandkids were catching huge carp? And I think I entitled that Kids Catching Huge Carp for Canning. I am going to can those carp right now. I have them in these bags right here. In fact, if you watch that video, you saw me vacuum seal them in these very bags right here. These are carp fillets. And what I've got here is a total of 6 pounds of carp fillets, and we're going to stuff every bit of this in jars, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do that. We're going to pressure cook these, and it's going to be the best salmon type patties you ever had in your life. Carp, trash fish that people call it. Nobody thinks they like to eat carp, but this is a way you can eat carp and you can enjoy it. Now let me cut this open here real quick. I'm going to grab one of these fillets out here. I'll show you what I'm going to do first. I'm going to cut them to a certain size, because they're too big to stuff in a jar like that. I don't want to stuff them in a jar, big old carp fillet like this. Now you see all this red meat on here? I'm not going to remove that red meat. You know why? Because if I remove the red meat, there's not going to be much meat left at all. So I'm going to leave all this meat in here. This red meat, believe it or not, if you saw another video I did about eating carp where we were surprised, took a big old bite of this red meat, and it didn't taste fishy or nothing at all. It was fine, okay? And so I'm gonna cut this into chunks here, and you can watch me do this. This is not a big deal, okay? Cut them to sizes about like that. And what I'm going to do is we're going to stuff this in jars. Look at that right there. See? We're going to stuff that in jars about that thickness right there. And I have 6 pounds of this carp. Now as I'm cutting this, hear that? You hear that? Listen. I'm cutting through bone like crazy, because carp have quite a few bones. They don't have as many bones as a sucker, but they have a lot of bones. I don't care about the bones in these little pieces of fish. Why? Because when you pressure cook that, it's going to turn them bones into mush, and you can eat those bones, and there's probably some health benefits to eating bones of a fish. I don't know. There's enough right there to probably fill a pint jar right there. Now, I'm going to finish cutting up the entire 6 pounds. When I get it cut up, we're going to come back to you here in just a second. Real quick, won't take but just a second. It's a flash. We'll be right back, and we're going to start stuffing in jars, show you how we do that. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to stuff these jars with pieces of carp. These are pint jars. And what I got going on here, I have the lids here in hot water. I'm going to leave them in there, and then I boiled this here. I'm going to leave them in the hot water to kind of soften the seals and make them seal a little bit better. Then I'll put the rings on. Of course, I'm going to get it filled up and ready to put in the pressure cooker. But right now, I'm going to stuff these with carp pieces. All right. Now, the first thing I want to do, we're going to sort of experiment with some of the flavor of this carp. And then one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some liquid smoke in one of them, because it'll give it a little bit of a smoky flavor. And just a little bit. You don't put too much, because it will be really strong. As you can see there, I probably put about, I would say, 1.5 teaspoons in there is all. And that should be more than enough. Again, whoo, you can smell that smoky flavor. It's going to make that carp so fine. Carp! Yeah, carp. I'm going to do that in one. I'm going to do another one here with some hot sauce. This is Tabasco Sriracha right here. And I'm going to just squirt a little bit of this in the bottom of this jar. I'm putting all this in now before I put my fish in. Okay, again, about 1 teaspoon or less. Little bit of, this is sweet chili sauce right here, sweet chili sauce. I'll put a little bit of that in there. Again, what this is going to do is give this fish different flavors. It's kind of like you can buy sardines with mustard flavor or different flavors, you know, sardines and tomato sauce and stuff like that. I eat all that stuff anyway, but anyways, it's really good for me. I like it. Again, now another thing I'm going to do is on the bottom of another one, I'm going to put minced garlic. Yep, right in the bottom it goes. Okay, just about a good little, I rounded off teaspoon. I wouldn't say a super heaping teaspoon, just a round off teaspoon. All right, here we go. We'll keep these, make sure we mark these separate. I'm going to start stuffing this in with carp. And these are smaller chunks, like I told you, in order to put in this jar, and it makes them pack a little bit better. And I'm going to pack this down as I go. What I'm trying to do is squeeze all the air out of this jar. Don't want a bunch of air pockets in there. And you can't get all the air out because I'm not in any way sucking the air out, so there's no way to get it all out. But I'm going to get as much as I can. I'm packing this jar to about a 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch to the top. And I'm making sure that I'm getting as much of the air out as I can. There you go. There's my garlic in there. Now what this fish will do, I'm not going to put no water in there. This fish will generate its own liquid. And when this gets done pressure cooking, this will be full of liquid that comes out of this fish. Okay, it's kind of like tuna. When you open a can of tuna, you're pouring that liquid out there. Some of that's water they put in, but a lot of it is from the fish itself. In the same way with this. Now what I will do with this is I'll put a lid on it. I won't do that right now. I'm going to put a lid on all these just like this, then screw the lid on the top. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through here and stuff all these jars like this, as many as we can. We're also going to do some plain. We're going to do a couple with nothing in it, no kind of seasoning or nothing. It's just going to be the fish. And that's kind of nice to do. That's why we used to do it when we was kids. My mom never put no flavoring in the carp, ever. She just stuffed that carp in a jar, stick it in the pressure cooker, and we would pull it out and she'd smash it down and fry it. It is so good, just plain like that, okay? Getting all the air out of here. That's the one with the liquid smoke. We've got our hot sauce right here. I'm going to fill it up too. All right, next thing you're going to see is me coming back and starting to put all this in the pressure cooker. We'll get all that ready for you, show you how that works. But it'll be the next thing you see happening right now.
Okay, we just boiled the lids for about 2 minutes, and that helps soften up the seal so that it'll seal better when you put them in the pressure cooker. So we've got a little magnet thing that comes with your canning supplies, and you can just take it like this, and we'll put it on the jar. Then after the jar, we'll put the rings on there. I've got 2 lids stuck together. Okay, here we go. Okay. Okay. Now they're ready to put the rings on, and we'll get to the pressure cooking in just a little bit.
The time has come to put the jars in the pressure cooker. We filled up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5 pints of carp in these jars. 6.5 pints. So 6 pounds of carp will fill 6.5 pints of jars. Okay, so that's kind of gives you a bird's eye view of how many carp. And that was 3 carp, but they were some good carp. If you saw in the video, they were some pretty good sized carp. I'm taking each one of these jars right here. They are ready to go. We did mark on here what we did. Like this one says smoke. This one says sweet chili, sriracha on here. I hope that stays on during the pressure cooking process, because I've never marked on the lids before we pressure cooked them. But we're going to see how that works. So I'm going to set them down inside the pressure cooker, and it'll hold all of these in the bottom. This is a pretty good sized cooker right here. I put approximately 2.5 inches of water in here. And there's a mark actually on these Presto cookers where you can, the fill line, where you want to fill it. Now the thing you don't want to do in your pressure cooking, folks, is to run out of water. You don't want to run out of water. You don't want too much water. You don't want to cover the jars. If you look in here, you can see what I got going here. I have about, if you can see down in there, probably 1.5 inches, 2 inches, probably a little over 2 inches of water in here. And that should be enough to pressure cook these. It's going to pressure cook for an hour. I'm going to watch the temperature gauge. As you can see, this has a temperature gauge on it. I'm going to let this temperature gauge get up here to 10 and just a little bit past, probably around 12 to 14 pounds of pressure. If you're under 2,000 elevation of sea level, 11 pounds is perfect. If you're over 2,000, you're getting into where you might need 12, 13, 14 pounds of pressure to pressure cook. So I'm going to do about 12 to 13 pounds, somewhere in there. I'm going to let it cook for about 1.5 hours. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to regulate the heat where that needle stays where I need it to stay the whole time. So it's about it's quite a process to get a batch done, but in my opinion, well worth it. Now, if you watch here, this has got a mark on here. This says open or close and open right here. Close and open. You may not be able to see it. I don't know if you can or not. Anyway, close and open. And I'm going to line it up with this. There's an arrow there, so I'm lining this arrow up with the arrow that's on the lid. There's an arrow, the pot itself. There's an arrow here. I'm lining up this arrow with this arrow, okay? Now, this arrow says to close it, to push it that way. So I'm going to push this lid that way. And I'm using both of my hands here. I'm locking it in place. Boom, locked up right there. Now this lid is on here real tight. This thing has a real tight seal, okay? Nothing, no steam should get out of here except right here. This is going to start wiggling and crackling here in a little bit when this gets hot. So I'm going to turn it on here. We're going to get it going. We'll come back while this is cooking, kind of show you how it's regulating, that kind of a thing. But we'll see you here in just a second. All right, we're cooking along here. I'll show you what's going on. There is my regulator right there. You see that 10? And there's a 15. It's right in the middle between 10 and the 15. While ago it's climbing a little bit higher toward the 15, which I don't want. And all I did was I tapped this and let some of that steam out, and it brought it down exactly where I need it. And so I have got my heat really low, and hopefully that's going to bring that and leave that right there somewhere between 12 or 10 and 15, probably preferably around 12, 12 and a half, somewhere there. I'm going to watch it. Leave it there. Got my timer set. Still have an hour and 22 minutes left. And then this will be done. We'll be taking it out. And this carp will be pressurized, canned, ready to be eaten. Okay? So that's how all this works. It's pretty cool. All right, it's been pressure cooking for an hour and a half at about 12, 13 pounds of pressure. It is done. You watch this little thing right here. This is called a float valve. This little deal right here. And after you turn your pot on, in about 5 minutes after it starts boiling, this thing, it pushes up and raises up. And just now, all the steam and everything's finally got out of here, and the pressure's out of the pot, and this valve dropped back down to where it's even. So I know now there's no pressure in this pot, but I'm going to open it up. Haven't opened it yet, but I'm going to. And I'm going to see what this all looks like in here. Here we go. Looks really good. Looks good. Get my tongs, I'm going to pull them out of here. Now these all sealed. I heard them popping inside of the pot. You could hear the lids pop and seal. So I know they sealed. Now let's take a look at this fish. You can see this looks cooked. And it is cooked. It's very cooked. And look at all the juice in there. I don't know if you can see that juice moving around. You would think I poured a cup of water in there. But I didn't put no water in there. But this is pretty cool how all this works, and it works really, really good. Here's the garlic one right here, and honestly, the water has a little bit different color to it, and that's probably because the garlic pressured and pushed up into the fish. It's going to be interesting there. But we will have these all eaten here shortly, because we're going to open 2 or 3 different flavors and test them, and that'll be the next thing you see. Don't be afraid to use a pressure cooker. It's so simple. When this starts boiling, your needle gets where you want it. You just regulate your temperature here. It keeps them until you get the. I finally found it. I had to move the knob on this thing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, until I finally hit the sweet spot where it held that temperature just right, so that my needle stayed about 12 to 13 pounds of pressure for an hour and a half, and I finally got it to where it needed to go, and that's how you do it. It's so simple. It's not hard. It's just time consuming. You got to stay with it to make sure that needle stays where you want it to stay. So, all right. So we got our fish. It's done. Let it cool down. We're going to meet at the taste table. I'm going to bring my grandkids probably, and who knows, I might get some other people to try to taste this with us and see how they like it. And you're going to like it too. Appreciate you being with us. We'll see you at the taste table.